Right now might be the best time for you to switch to the Sony ecosystem, and let me tell you why. As everybody might know, Sony allows third-party manufacturers to make full-frame autofocus lenses for their camera mount, for their E-mount. And there's been a lot of third-party manufacturers that have been making a lot of quality lenses so far. Now, obviously, there's still some benefits, well, a lot of benefits for sticking with native glass. For instance, the frames per second will not be limited. The focus breathing compensation that you'll have, autofocus is typically going to be faster. But if you want to get a lot of the similarities in optical performance, then you can go with a third-party lens, such as Sigma, Tamron, Viltrox, Mikey, C-Ray. These are just some of the third-party lenses that have really been doing a lot of good things for the Sony E-mount system. But what if I told you there are a couple other lenses and lens manufacturers that are coming to the E-mount that are really coming to play? If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, there is a lens company called SongRaw, which is by way of, I believe, YC Onion, who just announced not only a 50mm 1.2, but also a 85mm 1.2 that is going to be in production. The 50mm 1.2, I've heard that they were going to release that in late April. Obviously, we're in mid-May. I haven't heard anything else about it, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But they just announced the manufacturing of their 85mm 1.2 as well. And the other day, I came across this Sony Alpha Rumors page, and it talked about a Kase 85mm 1.4. And when I heard that, I was like, well, this is cool, but who is Kase? Next thing you know, I had to look them up. Apparently they make really good filters for cameras, but you know, now if you look at this Kase 1.4, one of the things that really stood out to me is that it's going to have 13 aperture blades. If you compare that to the Sigma 85 1.4 and the Sony G Master 85 1.4, those both have 11 aperture blades. More aperture blades typically means more rounder bokeh and cleaner bokeh and just a better looking bokeh depth of field. But C-Ray, another lens, which is the 85 1.4, which I own, has 15 aperture blades, which I did a video on that before, but also I'm doing another one on that coming up soon with some updated information, I guess, if you will. If you like this channel, I don't know, make sure you subscribe so you can get ready for that video. And also, one of the other perks about this lens is that it's going to weigh less than the Sony G Master 1.4. And the Sony G Master 1.4, if you ever used it, is light as it is. So the fact it's going to be lighter than that is pretty attractive, if you will. Now, there are no optical quality tests out that I've seen so far, but there are some physical or visual about what this lens is going to look like. And at first glance, it does look like it's going to be in a similar casing as a Sigma lens. But the real question is going to be, will it perform similar to a Sigma lens or a Sony G Master lens, which we don't know yet because it just got announced to be in production. Now, pricing and availability is not available on this lens yet, but it is something that I am interested in. Now, Kase and SongRaw are just two of the manufacturers that are making waves in the Sony ecosystem, but also you look at a manufacturer like Viltrox, they just released their 35mm 1.2 lab lens, which I am actually recording on right now, and that lens is a beast. And actually later today, I'm taking this lens and I'm recording some behind the scenes of an engagement shoot. So if you like this channel and you want to see more about how the 35mm 1.2 performs in action, make sure you subscribe to this channel because I have a video on that coming as well. Now, why do I say that it's the best time to switch to Sony just because of third-party lenses? Well, I mean, yeah, kind of, because of the fact that you're looking at these lenses. Now, the Kase lens I was just talking about, we don't know the price of it yet, but if you had to compare it to the other 85mm 1.4s, if you look at the Mikey 85mm 1.4, that's $400 to $500. The C-Ray 85mm 1.4 is $500. The Sigma 85 1.4 is right around $1,000. So if you had to guess the price of this new 85mm 1.4 by Kase, I would have to assume it's going to be anywhere between that $500 and $1,000 range, just because that's where we see a lot of the third-party manufacturers price their lenses. And the thing about using third-party lenses on Sony E-mount is that most of, if not all of the third-party manufacturers, they create professional lenses. I have used the C-Ray 85 on a wedding day. I use the Sigma 24 to 70 on my wedding days all the time. So I don't think especially nowadays, a bunch of third-party manufacturers are creating these professional lenses that are competing with the likes of Sony G-Master. So it is kind of forcing Sony to come out with all these new tech specs lenses that are going to change the game, which that 50 to 150 f2 that they just released is one of those things that actually changes the game. A lot of people are going to question if that is going to be comparable, or is that going to be more beneficial than the Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to 2.8, which I think the Sony blows that out of the water, especially because the Tamron, you're only getting f2 from 35 to 40 millimeters, so it's technically a 35 to 150 f2.8. So that's going to be personal preference at the end of the day, because at the same time, the Tamron is still going to be a lot cheaper than that Sony G-Master. But if you are considering switching to Sony, or if you are a Sony shooter now, we are in the day and age where we have all this stuff presented to us and we have all these options available to us, professional high quality lenses in order to attach to our cameras. Now, obviously we're still waiting on a bunch of different camera bodies to be announced. We're waiting on the FX2, we're waiting on the A7 IV to be announced, but I think these third-party lenses are going to pair well with those. But if you are doing a lot of, let's say, sports shooting and you need to utilize that 120 frames per second, or if you're doing a lot of cinematography work and you need that focus breathing compensation and you need the autofocus to snap just a little bit quicker, then you're probably going to want to go with the Sony G-Master lenses. But for instance, like I said, this Viltrox 1.2 with this Hyper VCM motor, the autofocus is instantaneous, and I'll do a bunch of tests and everything like that with this lens. And like I said, I have a video coming with this lens later on, probably next week, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But I think this is the best time to be a Sony shooter. I'm really excited for what's to come. I'm really excited for all these announcements. Now, hopefully none of these things flop, but you know, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So if you are a Sony shooter, let me know down in the comments if you're excited. If you are considering switching to Sony, let me know down in the comments and join the team. I mean, I came from Canon. I used to shoot on a Canon R6 Mark II. And now, well, let me add this in there before the video ends. I saw a video pop up from Ordinary Filmmaker about maybe there are some third-party full-frame lenses coming to the RF lineup, but we don't know. But if that happens, you can credit it to the fact that third-party manufacturers are blowing the doors off, because all the things that they're creating for the Sony E-mount, Nikon Z-mount, and some are the L-mount and some are the X-mount, but mostly you see it on the E-mount. So it's making Canon think a little bit, like, should we open a door? I don't know. I guess we'll see, Canon. I guess we'll see. But with that being said, this is it for today's episode. Let me know down in the comments, like and subscribe to the channel. There'll be more like this where this came from. I got a bunch of videos coming up that you don't want to miss. So with that being said, I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.